Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're stepping onto a battlefield unlike any you've seen before. We're talking about the future of warfare.
That's right. Forget trench warfare and dogfights.
Right.
We're diving into a world where the lines between soldier and civilian,
hmm
physical and digital, are blurring faster than ever.
Exactly. And to navigate this complex terrain,
Yeah,
we've got two amazing sources.
right.
One takes us on a historical tour, showing how technology from the Bronze Age to the nuclear era has always been the driving force behind how wars are fought.
Yeah,
The second source zeroes in on the here and now,
right.
specifically examining how cutting-edge tech is reshaping Finland's approach to national security.
And what's fascinating is that both sources point to the same fundamental shift.
Okay.
The traditional image of war, two nations clashing head-on with tanks and troops,
Yeah.
is becoming increasingly obsolete.
Okay, I think we need to break this down a bit for our listener.
Mhm.
Are we saying that countries are no longer the main players in conflict?
Think of it this way. The battle line, there's a whole debate raging right now about whether their actions even fit the traditional definition.
So it's not just about armies clashing on a battlefield anymore.
Exactly. And get this, our sources suggest that corporations are now major players in this new type of conflict.
Mhm.
Remember the accusations against ExxonMobil for running campaigns to manipulate public opinion about climate change?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, is that not a form of warfare?
Wow.
Just waged on a different front?
That's a really thought-provoking point.
Yeah.
It really makes you question how we define war in this complex landscape.
Right.
I mean, if economic sabotage
Right.
or cyber attacks can cripple a nation, are those not acts of war even if no bombs are dropped?
You're hitting on a key idea here. One of our sources introduces this concept of slow war, a kind of conflict that unfolds gradually wearing down an opponent over time.
Okay.
It's almost like the ancient tactic of slowly undermining a fortress, but on a global scale.
So it's like a war of attrition,
Yeah.
slowly chipping away at a nation's foundations.
Yeah.
Except in this case, the weapons aren't swords and catapults,
Right.
but things like information manipulation and economic pressure.
Exactly. Actors can exert their will without ever firing a shot. It's subtle, but incredibly powerful. And you know what makes it even more potent? Globalization and technology.
Now, this is where things get really interesting, right?
Mm.
Both of our sources dive into the specific technologies that are transforming the battlefield.
And I bet when you think future of warfare, you think drones first.
Well, yeah, I mean, these things are everywhere now, delivering packages, filming movies, even helping farmers monitor their crops.
It's amazing how accessible they've become. 10 years ago, a military-grade drone could cost millions.
Wow.
Now you can buy a commercially available one with similar capabilities for a fraction of the price, but it's their military applications that are truly revolutionary.
Yeah.
Look at Ukraine. They've successfully used relatively inexpensive drones for reconnaissance and targeted strikes against a much larger military force.
So not only are they affordable,
Right.
but they're incredibly effective. And it sounds like it's only going to get more intense. Our source mentioned something about drone swarms.
Oh yeah, that's where things get really wild. Picture this. Hundreds, even thousands of drones swarming like a cloud of angry bees, but instead of stingers,
Oh, wow.
they're carrying explosives. They can overwhelm defenses and inflict massive damage on infrastructure and personnel. It's a complete game changer.
And what's scary is that almost anyone can modify a civilian drone for military purposes. The lines between harmless gadget and weapon are incredibly blurred.
It makes it incredibly difficult to control the spread of this technology and prepare for its use in conflict. This brings up a question for you, listener. What do you think the implications are for national security and international relations in a world where practically anyone can have access to this kind of firepower?
Okay, that's a lot to digest already. And we've only just scratched the surface of the technologies shaping the future of warfare. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Last time we were talking about how drones are changing the face of warfare. But that's just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Right. And honestly, the technology that's got me even more concerned than drone swarms is the increasing weaponization of information itself.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Weaponizing information.
Think about it like this. We're living in an age of global decentralized tribes where online communities united by an ideology or a cause can wield incredible influence. They can spread propaganda, recruit followers, even launch coordinated cyber attacks.
It's like a digital army of keyboard warriors and hackers all working together to achieve a goal.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And here's the thing. Traditional military defenses are practically useless against this kind of networked warfare. You're not dealing with a physical enemy you can target, but a constantly shifting network of information and influence.
So how do you fight an enemy you can't even see? It's almost like trying to swat at a swarm of mosquitoes in the dark. They're there, but you can't quite pin them down.
It's incredibly challenging. And then there's the whole issue of data breaches and leaks. Think back to the impact of WikiLeaks or the Snowden revelations. These events showed how vulnerable even the most secure systems are to determined individuals or groups.
So it's a double whammy. Not only do you have to worry about protecting your own information, but you also have to contend with the potential chaos caused by leaks and misinformation campaigns.
Right. And to make matters even more complex, we have to factor in the growing power of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're talking about computers that can analyze massive amounts of data, identify patterns, and make decisions at speeds no human can match.
Wait, hold on. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of information as a weapon. Now we're throwing AI into the mix.
Well, that's the reality of the future battlefield. Think about AI-powered systems that can sift through mountains of intelligence data to identify threats or predict enemy movements in real time.
So instead of having human analysts painstakingly piecing together the puzzle, we have AI doing the heavy lifting, connecting the dots, and providing instant insights.
Exactly. It's like giving military commanders a crystal ball that can see into the future. It's a huge advantage, especially in high-stakes situations where every second counts.
But what about the risks? I can't help but think about all those sci-fi movies where AI goes rogue and turns against its creators. Is that something we need to be worried about in the real world?
It's a valid concern and one that's being hotly debated right now. But remember, AI is a tool. Its capabilities are defined by the humans who program it. The real danger lies in not understanding its limitations or using it recklessly.
So it all comes back to responsible development and ethical considerations, which honestly feels like a constant theme when we're talking about the future of warfare.
It absolutely is. Okay, so we've covered information warfare and AI. Now let's talk about robots. And I'm not talking about clunky factory robots, but highly sophisticated machines that can operate in complex and unpredictable environments.
Okay, I admit I'm picturing those Boston Dynamics robots that can do backflips and open doors. Are those things going to be marching into battle anytime soon?
Those robots are definitely pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but their military applications are still being developed. However, there are already robots being used in military operations today, such as bomb disposal units and unmanned ground vehicles for reconnaissance and logistics.
So robots are already playing a supporting role on the battlefield, handling the dirty and dangerous jobs.
Yes, but what's really game-changing is the increasing autonomy of these machines. Imagine a future where robots can perform complex tasks, search and rescue surveillance, even combat with minimal human intervention.
So we're talking about robots making their own decisions on the battlefield, engaging targets, potentially even taking human lives. That opens up a whole new can of worms, ethically speaking.
It does. It forces us to confront some really difficult questions. Can we delegate such weighty decisions to machines? What are the implications for accountability and the laws of war?
It's a lot to consider, and honestly, it feels like this technology is advancing faster than we can fully grasp its implications.
And that's why it's crucial to have these conversations now before these technologies become fully integrated into our military systems. We need to be proactive, not reactive, in shaping the future of warfare.
Okay, we've covered information warfare, AI, and robotics. What about some of the more out there technologies we hear about? Our sources mention things like directed energy weapons and nanotechnology. Are those science fiction or a glimpse into the future of warfare?
They're both in a way. Directed energy weapons like lasers have been in development for decades. They offer incredible precision and speed, but their effectiveness is still limited by technical challenges.
So while we might not see laser rifles on the battlefield anytime soon, the potential is there.
Absolutely. And as technology advances, we could see them used for everything from missile defense to non-lethal crowd control. Now, nanotechnology is even more speculative when it comes to military applications.
I'm picturing microscopic robots infiltrating enemy systems or delivering targeted payloads.
That's definitely the Hollywood version. The reality is that those scenarios are still firmly in the realm of science fiction. However, nanotechnology does hold promise in areas like advanced materials, sensors, and even battlefield medical treatments.
So while we might not have to worry about nanobots taking over the world just yet, it's a technology with huge potential for both good and bad.
Exactly. And the takeaway here is that the pace of technological innovation is relentless. What seems impossible today could be a reality tomorrow.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I think it's safe to say that the future of warfare is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. But before we get carried away with all this high-tech weaponry, maybe we should shift gears a bit. Our second source focuses on Finland's approach to national security in this rapidly evolving landscape. What can we learn from their strategy?
That's a great point. Finland offers a fascinating case study in how a nation can adapt to these emerging threats and opportunities. And what's interesting is that their approach isn't solely focused on military might. They've adopted this idea of comprehensive security, recognizing that true security encompasses a much wider range of factors.
Okay, so they're not just focusing on building bigger guns and stronger tanks. What else are they considering?
Well, they're looking at things like economic stability, social cohesion, environmental sustainability, even psychological resilience. It's a holistic approach, recognizing that a nation's security is intertwined with the well-being of its people and the health of its environment.
So instead of just focusing on repelling a physical attack, they're looking at how to strengthen their society from the inside out.
Yeah.
It's like they're building a fortress with multiple layers of defense.
Exactly. And this approach makes a lot of sense when you consider the nature of slow war, which aims to erode a nation's strength gradually over time, targeting those very same areas, the economy, social trust, and public morale.
I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together. But how does technology factor into Finland's strategy?
They're not shying away from technology at all. In fact, they're actively investing in research and development, focusing on areas like mobile and networked warfare, cyber defense, even artificial intelligence.
So they're embracing the power of technology, but in a strategic way, focusing on areas where they can have the most impact.
Exactly. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. Instead, they're identifying their strengths and focusing their resources on becoming leaders in those specific areas.
And it sounds like they're also prioritizing domestic production and technological self-sufficiency.
You're right. They understand that relying too heavily on foreign suppliers creates vulnerabilities, especially in times of crisis. By building up their own technological capabilities, they're increasing their resilience and ensuring they're not beholden to other nations, especially if a conflict arises.
It's like the old saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Except in this case, it's teach a nation to innovate and you secure its future.
That's a great way to put it. And this focus on domestic innovation has the added benefit of stimulating their economy and creating jobs.
So it's a win-win situation. They're boosting their security while also strengthening their economy. But it's not all about the hard power of technology, right? Finland also seems to understand the importance of what we might call the human factor in defense.
Absolutely. One of the key pillars of their defense strategy is this concept of total defense. It's the idea that every citizen has a role to play in protecting their nation, contributing to a sense of shared responsibility.
So it's not just about having a strong military, but about having a resilient and informed population that's ready and willing to defend their way of life.
Exactly. They're investing in things like civil defense preparations, promoting media literacy to combat misinformation, and fostering a strong sense of national identity and shared purpose.
It's like they're building a digital immune system, helping their citizens to recognize and resist propaganda and disinformation.
Precisely. And this kind of resilience isn't built overnight. It takes a long-term commitment to education, public awareness, and even cultural values that emphasize critical thinking and a sense of civic duty.
So while shiny new weapon systems are definitely part of the equation, Finland's approach reminds us that true security goes much deeper than that.
Right. It's about fostering a society that's not easily manipulated or intimidated. A society that can weather any storm, whether it comes in the form of a military attack or a sophisticated disinformation campaign.
And on that note, we'll wrap up Part 2 of our deep dive.